get started soon. Adam Brown, can you be quiet, please? Thanks. That's what you get for your son scoring on my son's hockey team. I'll keep bringing it up until we get it back. All right, thank you, everyone, and welcome to Agricultural Affairs Committee meeting for Monday, November 23rd. We just have 3 items on the agenda, and then we have a quarter revision to deal with 2 municipal drains following that. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Confirmation of minutes for the meeting of November 5th, 2015. Carried. Just before I go into the agenda, just want to read my statutory statement. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed zoning bylaw amendments listed at items 2 and 3 on today's agenda. For the items listed above, only those who make oral submissions today or written submissions before the amendments are adopted may appeal the matter to the Ontario Municipal Board. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the Ontario Municipal Board if Council does not adopt an amendment within 120 days of receipt of the application for zoning and 180 days for an official plan amendment. A comment sheet is available at the door for anyone wishing to submit written comments on these amendments. All right, so on item number 1, we're going to hold that's the draft operating budget for 2016. We have a presentation and a speaker to that. Item number 2 is the zoning bylaw amendment for 2491 Carp Road. This is essentially just rezoning to bring the property into compliance. We do have a speaker, but I do know they are in favor. So, Mr. Chown, if I don't ask you to come up here and speak, will you be okay with that? Perfect. Let the record show he said yes. So, the Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend Council approve an amendment to the Carp Road Corridor Community Design Plan convenience commercial note to permit the use of the property for display and garage and sale of garden sheds, gazebos, and pre-manufactured docks as detailed in document 2. And 2, an amendment to the zoning bylaw 2008-250 for 2491 Carp Road to permit the use of the property for display and sale of garden sheds, gazebos, and pre-manufactured docks as detailed in document 3. On the item? Carried. Item number 3 is a zoning bylaw amendment for 3570 Ninth Line Road. This is a surplus farm severance that comes here after it goes to Committee of Adjustment. The Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend Council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for part of 3570 Ninth Line Road to prohibit residential uses on the retained farmland as detailed in document 2. On the item? Carried. So again, like I mentioned, we have the two drainage items, which we will visit after we do the budget. So, but now we'll go straight to back to number 1, which is the 2016 budget. The Agricultural Affairs Committee budget is relatively small in the grand scheme of things. You'll see from the presentation we deal with things like railroad upgrades and bridges, design for bridges and construction in the rural area, as well as culverts. There are a plethora of other items that affect the rural area that are actually in the other budgets that will also be highlighted today, specifically road resurfacing in the Transportation Committee budget. So I'll hand it over to Wayne Newell and Michael Mizzi.
Good afternoon, Chair Moffat and members of ARAC. I'm here this afternoon with Wayne Newell, General Manager of Infrastructure Services, and others to present an overview of the ARAC portion of the 2016 draft budget. Our presentation will briefly focus on expenditures for PGM and capital budget areas of interest such as culverts and bridges and road upgrades and resurfacing. While some items are approved by the Transportation Committee, we have included them today to provide examples of the type of work being planned for your awards. As shown on this slide, and for the benefit of those in the audience, today's presentation will follow an agenda format with your concurrence that is standard for all the committees and the draft budget. As shown on this slide, the 2016 draft budget identifies $3.3 million allocated to planning and growth management within ARAC's purview. This amount includes 18 full-time equivalent positions, housed in Development Review Services, and the Rural Affairs Office. These departmental employees provide planning review services and rural liaison. Not unexpectedly, the largest pressure for 2016 is attributed to contract settlements and changes to benefits. This increase, however, is mostly offset by operational efficiencies amounting to a 13.8% reduction in discretionary spending. Therefore, the net increase for the ARAC portion of the department's 2016 draft budget is $28,000, or a 0.9% increase. I will now turn it over to Wayne Newell to take you through the capital budget items.
Thank you, Michael. As we see in this slide, the total capital program is in the order of $8.3 million, but as Chair Moffat had indicated at the beginning, that there is works going on in the rural areas that are covered off by other committees. To the next slide. So this just gives you an idea of the funding source to fund the $8.3 million capital program, a combination of reserves and tax debt that will support the $8.3 million. Some of the capital highlights, just to note that our city's assets are safe and generally in fair to good condition. It's estimated that approximately 25% of the city's roads are in need of resurfacing or reconstruction. Under the current funding levels, we are able to address probably in the range of 1.5 to 2% of the roads on an annual basis. And renewal investments will continue to be directed towards assets posing a higher risk to service. An example of this is for when you're looking at resurfacing, you would focus on arterial roads versus residential type roadways. Some of the highlights of the capital budget, as you can see there, some of the programs that fall under ARAC's jurisdiction is the structures in the rural road reconstruction and upgrades, and some rural road upgrades, and that's the amount that adds up to the $8.3 million. What falls under the other committees, for examples, are in the range of $20 million when you're looking at some of the resurfacing program, some of the integrated works, retaining walls and sidewalk renewal, and then there are structures that are funded through the rate budget at Environment Committee, and buildings and parks that again is approved by various other committees, but are works that will be undertaken in the rural areas, and then an intersection, some intersection works this year, which adds up, the additional work adds up to almost $30 million for a total capital works in the rural areas of approximately $38 million. So these are just some highlights. It's not an all-inclusive list, some highlights from the budget itself. They're either projects that are under design or asking for the money to move forward with construction and implementation in 2016. I won't go through the list, but there's just various culvert structure type work, as you can see on the screen. And some other highlights on the road side. Again, a number of examples, and these type of road type works are ranging from rural road upgrades to surface treatment to preservation treatment. And on the resurfacing side, again, a list of roadways there that will be undertaken in the rural areas. And as we indicated earlier, that the resurfacing program is under the approval of Transportation Committee. Just to put things in perspective, this year the resurfacing program is about $32 million, and the amount of work that will be done in the rural areas is approximately $13 million of that, which represents 40% of the resurfacing budget. And if you look at it from a lane kilometers perspective only, the number of lane kilometers citywide in the rural versus urban, and it's about 40%. So this is in alignment with the needs from a citywide perspective. And that is it for the quick presentation.
Just before we get to our delegation, I just know Councilor Secretary wanted to have a couple questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And question to Mr. Newell: when you suggested the acid condition, you said is in our assets. So we did a report in what, 2012, 2013, when we review all our assets in the city, and that report didn't come up say we are in good shape, because the majority was below the OMBES report. So basically, half of our asset is in need of upgrading, if it's not more than half, because only certain percentage of it was I think if I recall, was very good, good, poor, very poor. I think it was category 4 or 5 categories. Can you refresh? So why would you say our asset is in good shape when the majority of it in the report does not indicate it?
Chair, you're right. The last report we brought forward was in 2012, the Comprehensive Asset Management Report.
Correct.
And we have a rating system of what we classify our roads in as in poor or very poor or in good condition. It doesn't necessarily align with the OMBE. The OMBE is some metrics that there's different interpretation of what those measures mean. And I think when we identified the overall condition of the roads, and then when we applied that, we realized that it's a 25% of the roads are in need. And it's really, when we looked at the condition of the roadways, we look at the available funds and the conditions we want to move forward to. So they are in reasonable condition. I think that was the message. But I think the key message is for us to, as we move forward, which was part of the last long-range financial plan, was to make sure that the increased levels of funding that was identified, we continue on that path so we don't slip down to having a good part of our network in not so good condition.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not sure that's the answer I was hoping for, because really when you say on the record it is in good condition, that means we're doing the proper investment in it. So from the asset management report and where identified the need and where we are today is still a gap. So I wouldn't categorize it as we're catching up. As a matter of fact, we're going backward. If we follow the report from 2012, what is it?
Chair, on those comments, so from an overall perspective, the city's assets, what we're saying is they're generally in fair to good condition. Just flashing. Yeah, so what we're saying from an overall asset citywide is from fair to good conditions. We realize that the levels of funding on the roadside, so the levels have been increasing, but I think to your answer, no, we're not spending enough on our roads. For example, probably the best program we can use that you'd relate to is the resurfacing program. I made reference to this year's program is about 32 million. We should be, last year's was about 23 million. So we're going the right direction. But we should be spending in the order of $50 million per year to appropriately look after our assets. So the last plan was taking our renewal funding from about 80 million up to 160. So if we stay that course, we're in the right direction. If we step back, as you had indicated, our assets will deteriorate.
The reason I'm asking, and I don't want to get into a debate about this, but the reason I'm asking you this question, because in the past, we missed 2 steps in the middle of the ladder, so we had to make a big jump. So 2012, we went to the mayor, and we asked to borrow money, and we spent $145 million over and above what we normally spend to catch up with what fall off the wagon before. And now it seems we're doing the same thing. We're missing another 2 steps, so the next time we need to make a bigger jump. So I'm hoping staff keep in mind, I'm not sure if the federal government's going to deliver on a stimulus and what type of stimulus is going to be and what the condition of stimulus is going to be. But I like to make sure we are in a position, if something happened from the federal, some kind of stimulus to municipality, at least we are ready like we did the last time, so we don't miss that opportunity.
Yes, on that, Chair, and in the case, yeah, certainly it would be, depends on the program where we can attribute those funds to, the type of work, but I would think that programs like the resurfacing program, they are quick to deliver. It would be a great opportunity, so if we were able to apply funds to the resurfacing, that's the type of work that we get out the door quite quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, I also, just to that, we're also, as part of our 2012 long-range financial plan, year over year, we've been increasing our contribution to capital so that number continues to rise. So that resurfacing funds, you mentioned 23 last year, 32 this year, that number will continue to rise as well into 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Chair, that's the current plan and the long-range financial plan, and we will align ourselves with that plan in 2016 with the comprehensive asset management plan is being updated in 2016, so that will be a a good discussion to make sure we continue on
Exactly.
a favorable path.
Perfect. All right, so more about how good our roads are. Dale Harley is here to speak from the National Capital Heavy Construction Association. Oh, sorry, did you want to? Well, we'll go with the presentation first, then we'll come back to staff, to questions. So, Mr. Harley, this is Agricultural Affairs Committee. I'm not sure if you've been here before, but for anyone who doesn't know, he comes here all the time. So you have a presentation on the budget.
I don't know if you want.
Just click on that. There you go. Press this button down here. There you go. So, Dale, before you start, I know that in the past we used to give you a hard time for always doing the same thing over and over again. I just want to commend you. Last year, your theme was A Tale of Two Cities. This year, you have another theme, which I commend you in always coming with different themes to tell us that we're not doing great. But I do appreciate it.
Next year, it's Show Me the Money.
Okay. Well, hopefully it's, well, we'll see. We'll see. That's up to Justin. So we'll go ahead with you, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address the committee. As you pointed out, this year's theme is The Road Not Taken. As you may recall, it is a very famous Robert Frost poem. Ends with, two roads diverge in the wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that makes all the difference. And I guess what we're trying to point out to the committee here is that you have a chance to make a difference for the benefit of all taxpayers. It's just not our opinion that roads in Ottawa are less than ideal. In fact, the 2014 Omni report demonstrated that the quality of roads in Ottawa is poor. In fact, we had the worst roads of any major city that was participating in the study, as you see. The results of this were confirmed, really confirmed the results that Councillor El Chantieri was just talking about in terms of the infrastructure report card. And we'll note here, and I think it's really important that when you're looking at transportation, it has the lowest proportion of assets that are in very good to good condition at only 21%. When you compare that to others, obviously there's an issue here. When you take a look at how that breaks down with respect to roads, all across Canada, we have a situation where approximately 50% of roads in Canada are in good to very good condition. That drops down to just 21% when we're talking about all roads in Ottawa, and collector roads we would have a worse situation. I will acknowledge the point that Wayne Newell pointed out, is that there are different matrices here, but I think what's crucial to recognize is that whether they're the exact same matrix, we end up with roads being the worst in both the Omni and the infrastructure report card. When we look at the cost of deferring roads, obviously it is considerable. If you don't take care of it now, it's going to take a lot more later. And it's just not the economic cost of roads that we're concerned about, but also the fact that delaying roads or letting roads deteriorate from a good to a poor condition, for each dollar that you save on road maintenance, you're actually increasing the VOCs by between $2 or $3. So far from saving money, cutting back on road maintenance actually increases the cost of road transport and raises the net cost of the economy as a whole, which we don't like to see. When you take a look at this need for investment in roads, the city is actually proposing to spend even less on transportation capital in 2016 than it did in 2014 and 15. And when you're comparing just capital expenditures on roads, it's also important to note that a dollar spent today gets you a lot less than a dollar got you in the past. Today, you have to take into consideration that you have to pay for species at risk, permits to take water, discharge water, accessibility issues, inflation, etc. So you're getting a lot less bang for your buck than you used to. And the City of Ottawa has failed when it's making its forecast for next year for the last 2 years in a row. In the 2016 budget, the city actually proposes to spend $53 million less on transportation capital budget than it did in 2014, and when you compare the 2014 forecast for 2017, the city will invest actually $172 million less on roads than it originally proposed. So given the poor condition of roads, the spending trend is really not sustainable. The spending pattern would appear to be at odds with the long-range financial plan. It identifies a need to increase tax-supported funding for road renewal, for the renewal of city assets to a level 165 from $80 million per year. And when we look at the data with respect to roads, we have concern that we're widening that gap as opposed to closing it. So as was noted in Mr. Frost's poem, it would appear that you are choosing the wrong road. What some of you may even find more alarming is the fact that tax-supported funding for transportation is less than the source of funding for the overall City of Ottawa capital assets. So when we're talking about the long-range financial plan, and it makes reference to tax dollars, we're spending less. As was noted in the as was noted in a survey conducted by the Citizen, 96% of you noted that infrastructure in roads was important, 78% noted that it was a priority, and 70% actually commented on the condition of roads. So you're certainly getting it right. I won't bother reading out these because I know I'm short on time, but here are a selection of comments made by council members supporting this requirement. So in conclusion, maintaining a 2% tax increase is arguably the right road to take. We're not going to dispute that. But we are going to say that council has reached a fork in the road when it comes to transportation infrastructure. And to take the road less traveled by, you need to be able to make a difference. And to make that difference, you either have to find ways to reallocate funding from across all budget items or increase the debt to pay for these much-needed repairs before they cost even more, as been noted by Councillor El-Shantari. So one other advantage of investing now in capital budgets for roads is that you'd also be sending a very positive message towards your federal and provincial parties. That's it. I'd be more than pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harley. Do we have questions for Mr. Hearn? No? Hey, I will say that one of the key things, Councillor El-Shantari mentioned the potential federal infrastructure program. I think one of the key things would be that they should work with municipalities across Canada on renewal, not just throw money at us and hope for us to catch up and go more into debt. That'll just put municipalities into bankruptcy for many of them. But it's to look at the programs that we have. So we have a certain number. If they match that, that would go a long way for us to get to where we're going in the short term. And I think if they did that for municipalities across the country, I think you actually see a benefit. But certainly the focus needs to be not on cutting ribbons on shiny new roads somewhere, but actually investing in the current infrastructure we have now. If we can't afford to maintain the roads we have now, we shouldn't be building new ones. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Shatiri.
Just, would you be able to send us electronically a copy of your presentation, or we have it?
Mark has a copy of that. We've also provided you with a hard copy of the slides.
What
and speaking notes as
electronically,
well.
but Mark will send it to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So Councillor Drews, questions for staff?
Thank you, Chair. Question for Wayne. In item Blair Road, we spoke about it. I just want to make sure to confirm it's not getting gravel, it's getting... can you tell me what kind of surface we're looking at? And
Yes, Chair, the Blay Road is scheduled for an upgrade, so it's an existing stretch that the councillor is referring to is gravel that will be upgraded to a hard surface as part of 2016 program.
Thank you, Wayne. I just want to echo also what Councillor Shantiri and Dale said, that it's very nice and it's good. I'm hoping that we'll have some different funding and resources coming from the federal, so we need to be prepared to be able to make that move. So it will be nice to have a roadmap on planning and making sure that some of the roads that are really, we refer everybody to the OMBI report, that we have so many roads and certain roads need to be really looked after if we are prepared and having proactive approach than waiting for the resource and funding to come. So that will be an area where I think we should be ready and prepared for.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? I will say, Councillor Drews, it wasn't in the presentation, but River Road was also slated for. It wasn't in the presentation; it wasn't included. But River Road, which is a big contentious area for people down in the Mantic area, will be resurfaced as well between Leitrim and Mitch Owens. So I think we have a motion to a roadmap motion on the budget. If I can get Councillor Drews to introduce that motion. Oh, also. Councillor Blake couldn't be here today, so if you have any other motions that you want to take funding away from Cumberland Ward and give it to your ward, now would be the time to do that. So, Councillor Drews?
Thank you, Chair. The motion that the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee recommended that Council, sitting as a committee of whole, approve the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee 2016 draft operating and capital budget as follows. 1. Development review process, rural operating resource requirement, page 3.
On item number 1?
Okay.
Carried?
Number 2, the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee capital program, page 4, individual project listed, page 9 to 20.
And on item number 2?
Carried.
Carried. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike, for the presentation. I know Derek Moody did the presentation last year. I thought he did a great job. I'm not sure why he got someone else to do it this year. So, 2 in-camera items. There are none. Open mic session. Nobody signed up for the open mic session. Notices of motion. None. Inquiries. None. Other business. Technically, we have other business, but we have to adjourn this first. So, on adjournment. Carried. Thank you. So, we'll now transition straight into the quarter revision to deal with the Dow municipal drain as well as the Fluellen municipal drain. Go ahead. Go ahead, grab her. I don't need that's just needs to be matched. So go ahead and talk to her. Yeah. What? I'm just going to go right now. I'm just going to go right now. It's going to take a minute. Oh, no. I'll stay with you. Yeah. All right, so as I mentioned, Court Revision has 2 items on the agenda for the purpose of hearing appeals under Section 52 of the Drainage Act by owners of land assessed for drainage works under the engineer's report for Dowdle Municipal Drain, entitled Amendment to the engineer's report for the Dowdle Municipal Drain, branch number 6, DND property, dated August 2015. This court will now convene for the first sitting of the Court of Revision under Section 46 of the Drainage Act. We have no notice of appeal for this drain. So any owner of lands assessed under the engineer's report who have not provided written notice of appeal to the clerk in advance of this hearing should identify themselves to the clerk's assistant at this time with a request to be heard. So therefore, on the item that the members of the Court of Revision received the report of the engineer appointed under the Drainage Act entitled Amendment to the Engineer's Report for Dowell Municipal Drain, Branch Number 6, D&D property dated August 2015. And, so on the item. Received. So this court adopts the assessments as stated in the engineer's report dated August 2015. The decision rendered by this court may be appealed to the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee. Agricultural and Rural Affairs. Agriculture, I get confused because there's too many names, then they're so similar. Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Appeal Tribunal within 21 days of today, November 23rd, 2015. Sample appeal notices are available from the city's drainage superintendent, and court is adjourned on that one. So our second one is the Fluellen Municipal Drain. So I'll do this all again. For the purpose of hearing appeals under Section 52 of the Drainage Act by owners of land assessed for drainage works under the engineer's report for Fluellen Municipal Drain entitled Amendment to the Engineer's Report for the Fluellen Municipal Drain Branch 1 dated August 2015, this court will now convene for the first sitting of the Court of Revision under Section 46 of the Drainage Act. Again, we have no appeals for this drain. Any owner of lands assessed under the engineer's report who have not provided written notice of appeal to the clerk in advance of this hearing should identify themselves to the clerk's assistant at this time with a request to be heard. Seeing as there's no appeals filed, the members of the Court of Revision received the reports of the engineer appointed under Drainage Act entitled Amendment to the Engineer's Report for the Fluellen Municipal Drain, Branch 1, dated August 2015. And Kameen, what you've done. I got it here. On the item, received. So this court adopts the assessments as stated in the engineer's report dated August 2015. The decision rendered by this court may be appealed to the Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Tribunal, Appeal Tribunal, within 21 days of today, November 23rd, 2015. And again, sample appeal notices are available from the city's drainage department. Court adjourned. On adjournment? Carried. Thank you. Just for anyone interested, specifically John Willing, because he's the only person here that is involved with the city. The next meeting of the Agricultural Affairs Committee is on December 10th. It's a special meeting at the Mantic Arena to deal with the Mantic Secondary Plan. Our next regularly scheduled meeting won't be until Thursday, February 4th. Thank you.